Okay, hello everybody. So from now on, we're going to have about a 30-minute pre-recorded lecture that I hope you will try to watch prior to our live gatherings on Sunday. And that way we can let our Sunday gatherings be really intimate. We can create space for vulnerability. And especially in that our class is happening in the middle of the day on Sunday and in the middle of the summer. I know it's just particularly challenging to get there live. And so this way, no matter what, we'll have a good 30 minutes of sort of the meat of the big ideas that we're exploring. And then we'll be able to have our live gatherings, which will limit to 1 hour. To process together. So this is just a brief additional video as an addition to our first live class that happened with lovely representation actually yesterday. So I hope that everybody, whether you watched it, whether you were with us live or watched the recording, I hope that you took time to do that reflective writing. And if you would like to share any of that writing with me, you should always feel free. You will really get the most out of this material if you bring a certain type of deep curiosity about self and brave radical honesty to it. So you should feel free to send me your writing prompt if you are so moved. The last really important first step that we need to take together in class one that we didn't do live when I stopped the recording yesterday was to just talk about where it is we're going to be meeting this dark side material. Where are the openings to the Sitra Achra on the Kabbalistic tree? So we are going to meet the dark side in 3 places on the Kabbalistic tree of life. They are in the void, which if you journeyed Kabbalah of the Body with me, and what's nice, I think a lot of you were in Kabbalah of the Body together actually, right? So if you did Kabbalah of the Body with me, you'll remember our work with the void and how it connected to the invisible sefirot Daat. So you can see that Daat here is faded out. It's hard to read because it's that invisible sefirah and it is the embodiment of the void. We're going to meet the dark side in the left hand, as we saw in the text that we explored together in class 1, that we tend to call it Gevurah in your general work with me when we're just working on positive sense of self and the ability to act in an empowered, heroic way, to set boundaries, to fight for what we believe in. But what we're going to see is that in a lot of the sources we're going to be looking at together in the dark side, this sefirah is going to be called din, judgment, because the risk that comes with it is the risk of the spiraling of this capacity to set boundaries. It's constriction through the doorway of judgment. And then lastly, we're going to be meeting these dynamics in Malkhut, which, if you were with us in the Kabbalah of the Earth, Kabbalah of the Earth is a 10-session exploration of the dynamics of Malkhut, where we are working with all of the vast potentials that the Kabbalistic system is telling us are here and present for us in this majestic created reality, but they're all unfolding concurrently, sometimes in profound dialectical tensions here on the earth plane in the terrain of Malkhut. So first and foremost, the void. So we'll look at a story from the void and the conceptualization around the void in a future class. But for now, I'll just remind us that the entirety of the divine, labeled here as transcendence, the upper world, we acknowledge as being Ein Sof, the limitless. Ein Sof literally means without end, no thingness. And we know that no thingness, the terrain which is prior to language, prior to any conceptualization, this is the true nature of the divine. This is oneness with no concept whatsoever of two. So Ein Sof, it is what is most real from a Kabbalistic standpoint. But our world is a world of manifest reality. And in order to transition from the world of the limitless to the world of the manifest, existence, divinity, must pass through the void, represented here as this solid dark line on this diagram. And what we're going to see as we delve into the dynamics of the dark side, there is great risk that happens as divinity passes through this terrain, which is called the void. In our class 1, we were working with the language of potential, the pregnant potential in every moment. But the term that is a little bit more precise is privation, absence, literally the void. That in order to go from no thingness to something, the power of the Big Bang, the power of the One, must pass through the void. And in passing through the void, we create the portal opening for the dark side. Number 2 is the sefirot of Gevurah, the left hand. We saw this in the text together, and this is where we're going to spend the majority of our time. We're going to have to do some hard feminist work around Kabbalah's association with evil and the feminine. We see this, for example, in the opening of the Hebrew Bible and the accusation that it is that the snake dupes the woman. So this big idea, this ancient idea, persists across faith traditions, and it continues to be taught and explored in Kabbalah even until today. And so we're going to have to do some work, especially we learning this together in 2026 happen to be a group of entirely women. So we're going to have to do some sorting out between the basic fear of the other that are projected onto women by the male authors of these texts and the actual constriction dynamics of Gevurah. The way that these dynamics work is that Gevurah literally means power. And we tend to work with it as the power to set boundaries, the power to say no. Its dialectical tension is with chesed. Chesed is the most full-throated yes that both we and the divine can muster. And so the opposite of that yes is the dynamics of no. The dynamics of no in the Kabbalistic system are the seat of power. I find my power in my ability to set limits. And that is a wonderful thing. So for example, the angel Gabriel is the same word as Gevurah and sits here in this dynamics of the left hand. But as we're going to explore inside the nitty-gritty in this course, my ability to say no is very closely related to my tendency to pass judgment. And my tendency to pass judgment, when I add a little bit of fury, a little bit of fire to that tendency to pass judgment. Judgment here is the term din that we met at the beginning of class. When my Gevurah becomes din, and then when I add some passion, that din, that posture of judgment, can so easily become a posture of anger or even rage. And it is from this cascade of power to judgment, to anger, to rage, that evil most commonly enters on the earth plane, and that we find ourselves within the working dynamics of the dark side. And then lastly, just as a taste, we are going to meet the dynamics of the dark side in Malkhut. We'll talk about that in our future classes. For now, I'll just leave you today with a question that I want to encourage you to begin to as we can identify the dark side in us, in the tendency to roll our eyes, right? So eye rolling is a boundary setting physiological technique that often comes online for us with adolescents when adolescents are working so hard to carve out space to be themselves in contrast to their parents. And so they'll use this energetic repulsion technique of eye rolling. So I want you to notice when you roll your eyes throughout your day. And when you do, I want you to be aware that it is a dark side trigger coming through for you. And then in the terrain of Malkhut, manifest reality, the earth plane, where you have just rolled your eyes, I want you to begin to notice, to wonder, what is the source of this dark side flare? Because what we're going to find in the hard work, and we'll work on this in our later classes, the hard work of distinguishing, of coming into relationship with struggle and with the dark side expressions in the level of Malkhut, is that that these dynamics are their post-ego dynamics, which is to say we're working from within our own limitations, in our own biases. And so, for example, let's take the example right now of the terrible natural wildfires that are raging in both Europe and America. So these wildfires are certainly expressions of Deen. And so we can ask ourselves, where do we see them on this unfolding here? Do we see them? They are fiery hot, which reminds us of the red and the orange of rage and anger. But in reality, from the perspective of Mother Earth, they are balancing dynamics. They are actually expressions of Gevurah, of healthy power. But if, God forbid, my home is in the path of the wildfire, I, with all of my might experience the raging of the wildfire as an expression of the dark side, of evil. I might feel myself to be cursed as the dark side is raging and, God forbid, burning down my home and taking from me all that I love. And yet, from a God's eye view, that expression of Gevurah is part of the rebalancing of the earth plane. And yet, from my human point of view, it feels really, really bad. Maybe even like a punishment or like evil. And so when we're working with dark side dynamics at the level of Malkhut, we have to call upon our sense of discernment that there's a matter of perspective. When are we going to feel that these are dark side dynamics versus when we're going to feel that these are dynamics that are asking us, inviting us, opening the possibility for us to surrender back into the void and to feel ourselves held by the Creator, to feel ourselves actually blessed that we are we are part of the canvas that Source is in real time painting, creating, shaping our lives. So that is all yet to come. For now, just to recap, the three main sefirot that we're going to be focusing on in this class are work with the void, as you see here as the invisible sefirah Daat, work with Gevurah, but we're going to sometimes call it Din. Gevurah means power, Din means judgment, and work with Malkhut, the 10th sefirah, the earth plane, the goddess. So that is where we are headed. Keep an eye out for the next pre-recorded lecture, which I will do my very best to send to you before Thursday, and I hope you can watch it before I see you on Sunday, and I hope, if your schedule permits, to see you live on Sunday.